Hello, this is a take two. Let's see if it's working right now. So on Wednesday, we talked about a new policy memorandum issued on November the 30th about the interviews for an I-751 that went into effect on December the 10th, 2018. We gave one tip for your interviews during that video, and we thought we should do an entire live devoted to tips. So this is what we're going to do today. I'm Raluca. I am an attorney who provides immigration and other legal services to my clients. And I'm here with Nina Clear, my marketing and office manager. And we really appreciate all of you who are watching all these videos and who like, share, and comment as all of these help others to see our videos and help them.
Okay, so for the I-751, that's the green card by marriage.
That's right.
Basically. And so you did give one tip the other day. Do you want to repeat that for maybe those who haven't seen the video?
Yes. I told you to be sure to bring everything that your attorney is telling you at the interview, and also check that list that comes in the letter that you received from USCIS, the letter for the interview, and make sure you bring all the originals that are on there. Also, the officer is going to ask you for an ID, so make sure you have your driver's license with you or your passport.
And you said bring originals. Do you bring copies at all?
Yes, you do bring copies for things that you will leave with the officer. You will not leave originals with the officer.
And you've seen people who have had their green card approval delayed because they didn't bring the copies you told them to bring or that was in the letter, right?
That's right.
Okay. And have you seen anything else that can cause a delay or a denial? I mean, and this is really brief, so this obviously doesn't cover everything.
Sure. One other issue that seemed to surprise some clients was when the immigration officer who was interviewing them had reviewed past applications and found inconsistent statements or information provided.
And how could that have been avoided?
Though I shouldn't say this.
Have to say it, right?
I have to say it, but be honest. So every time you send an application to USCIS or apply for a visa, give your best and true response answers. I've seen this with my clients where they looked at applications for your visa application. So not only regular applications, and that's what I'm saying then.
And then you should review them yourself before you go to the interview.
Yes.
Right? Even if your attorney filled them out or someone else did it for you.
You should always have a copy of everything that you sent.
Because basically, when you sign it, you're saying, I have reviewed this and everything's true and correct.
That's right.
So if at the interview you change that, at one point you lied, and that could be a problem.
Exactly. That's always a problem.
And I know you told us the other day that the law mandates that the USCIS officer starts all their reviews with the premise that the immigrant entered into a marriage in order to obtain a green card. So they presume the marriage is not a bona fide marriage at the outset, right?
Yes,
okay.
That's right.
So because of that, do you find when you go to the interviews that the officers maybe have an attitude or they're hard to deal with during the interview?
It really depends on the interviewer. Some seem to have an attitude and don't even know the law, so they ask sometimes outrageous things. For example, I had a couple that was told that the U.S. would not recognize their overseas marriage.
That was legal.
That was legal, and that is something that me as an attorney, I know it's not true and can intervene if I'm there at the interview.
Okay.
But marriage-based applications usually are more scrutinized than others, so people should be prepared for extensive questions and personal questions as well.
Okay. So do you recommend that people bring an attorney to their interview?
I do. If they are in U.S., yes. If they're having an interview at a consulate, an attorney is not allowed to attend, but I would recommend that they at least consult one before. If during the interview you have questions about something you might say, you can always ask to speak privately with your attorney.
If they're there. So you can't like call them.
Exactly. If the attorney is there with you in the room, and who is there to ensure that the law is followed, but it's always up to the officer's discretion if it's allowed.
So what type of attitude should your client or the person being interviewed have?
I know it might be difficult, but try not to be nervous. Also expect to be asked questions and answer them in a respectful and complete way.
So why shouldn't you be nervous?
I know that it's probably impossible, but the interviewer will not only pay attention to your words, but they will also pay attention to your demeanor. And if you're excessively nervous, they may hold that against you.
So will they compare what you say to your file? I mean, you've told us, yeah, they do. And they might also look at old applications like on your visas,
Absolutely.
right? Okay.
Absolutely. I would review what you submitted and be sure that you answer in the same way. So all the information that you gave them, it's consistent.
But I've also read that you don't need to memorize anything, because if you don't remember something, they do let you refer back to your documents. Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. You can. But if you're sitting there reading documents, it's also maybe raising some question marks. So you should know your basic information that you provided in your application.
Okay. So you should know your marriage date. Don't be that man who's like, I don't know, sometime in September. And you should know your spouse's birthday, right?
Yes, you should. And your spouse's middle name. So, yes, you should know all this basic information.
Okay. So is it important that you live together? Because I know we've had people call us and say, my spouse goes to school out of state or works out of state. And they wonder if that's going to cause them to be denied.
It depends. If you live apart because one person is going to school or has an out-of-state job, they may question if this is a bona fide marriage. But if you can show you have a long relationship with things such as pictures from various times, joint bank accounts, a joint lease, you spend time together for holidays or and vacations, all that may alleviate the belief that you aren't in a true marriage.
And besides what you just told us, can you give us any ideas of what else might demonstrate that you're a couple?
Well, they might ask you how you met or your particulars about your marriage ceremony and any celebration afterward. They may ask you about your apartment or house and who sleeps, what side of the bed, and how it's decorated, or things like that.
So what about if you don't understand English? Can you bring an interpreter?
Yes, you can, and you should.
What about if you don't know an answer to a question?
One of the biggest problems that can make your interview go badly is if you don't answer the question that you're asked, or you give an answer that to a question that you didn't understand. So if they ask you something and you say yes, but without understanding the question, that would put you in a lot of trouble sometimes. So therefore, it is fine to ask the question to be restated. And if you don't know the answer, you don't have to come up with an answer. You just have to explain that you don't know. Don't try to bluff your way through, as you may end up saying things that contradicts the record they have reviewed.
And are the interviews video or audio taped?
In my experience, they never have been.
So what about your appearance? Should you dress up when you go?
I say you would wear a business casual. You need to show that you respect the officer and the interview, the occasion. So you don't necessarily need a suit and a tie, but I would also avoid a dirty or disheveled appearance. And I would avoid t-shirts or other clothing with messages on them.
So nothing that says anarchy, is the best government
No.
or things like that. Okay. And are there some things you definitely should not do during the interview? Like don't pull off your suit with your shirt that says overthrow the government, right?
No, I think that would not be a good idea. And I would not joke about having done some of the things that might keep you from being denied, such as drug smuggling, or I would not argue with your spouse or the officer. I would not get upset if they ask you things that bother you. You just have to answer to the best of your ability. And you don't have to lose your patience with the officer. And again, you need to be honest, so don't lie at all.
Okay. And what should you do?
You have to arrive on time, which actually means before the scheduled time. You can be denied if you are late or don't show up. So that is an easy one to avoid.
And I've also read that officers can actually go to your home and to see if you live together. Have you known that to happen?
I guess they can, but no, I have never had that happen.
Okay. Any other tips that you have for the interview?
I always get the interviewer's name at the beginning of the interview so that if there's a problem, I can follow up with their supervisor. And I would make notes during and after the interview if there's anything more you need to provide or if you don't know the answer to any questions. And that would help later on to remember and to follow up.
So if there is information that they need as follow-up, do they tell you that at the interview or do they send you a letter later?
They do tell you at the interview.
And I guess that means that you're not told a decision at the interview.
In my experience, actually you are told, except like some cases where they are not sure yet and they need more information. But usually you are told.
Okay. And what about if you're denied based on your interview? Can you appeal that?
Not if the I-485 is denied. You can only apply for a motion to reopen, or it can be reviewed by an immigration judge during removal proceedings. But if it is based on the I-130, that can be appealed. Any information about appealing will be included in your notice that you receive.
And about how long after the interview will you find out if you're approved or denied?
USCIS is supposed to notify you by mail within 30 days, but this does not always happen as it is with USCIS. So it can take more time. It can take several months. But this notification isn't your green card. It is merely a letter notifying you that you are approved. And then you will receive your green card in the mail. In my experience, my clients received it in about 2 weeks after the approval notice. Although the USCIS states that they should get it to you within 60 days from the time of the interview. So this is all what I have for today. Thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, please submit them to us here or in a private message. Have a good weekend and see you next week.